is often the co-writer on books about
Oops.
is often the co-writer on books about Hi again.
Hi there. Sorry, I lost you at Laurie Sturdivant. I think
It came up saying it was being recorded. I had a 50-50 chance of clicking on the right button, and I
oh,
clicked
I see.
somehow on leave the meeting. Duh. But yeah, Laurie Sturdivant writes, like, if there's a state politician, like I think she co-authored Elmer Anderson's
Hmm.
autobiography, The Former Governor, and I'm trying to remember who else she's done, but yeah, that's that's where I see that anymore. I guess I don't read many books that are written with someone else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But,
All
but it's
right.
an interesting read, sobering about, our justice system.
Here.
I'm going to click got it, not leave.
Not. See you later.
I can, that's right. I can be taught. Anyhow, Mike, if you wanna go see him speak, it's gonna speak at Minneapolis Central Library I think it's in April, and then they're having a community panel discussion with Marvin Haynes, who was recently released from prison as a result of work, I think, by the Great Northern Innocence Project, um, and I think someone else who was formerly incarcerated, kind of talking about the system in Minnesota, which I think would be interesting for a lot of people.
It is interesting. Sorry, so we hit record after we began the conversation to tell folks who might be listening in later what the event is you're talking about. It's interesting.
Yeah, so the Hennepin County Public Library once or twice a year does something called the Mary Ann Key Book Club with Myron Metcalf, who's a columnist for the Star Tribune. Mary Ann Key was Mr. Metcalf's, I think, great grandmother who was enslaved in the United States. And so, kind of in honor of her memory, he hosts this book club with the public library, and they often choose books authored by people of color or who address issues of inequity um, in our society. Mostly they're, well, I don't know, mostly if they're literature, but they read The Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler a couple of years ago. It was such an interesting choice. So anyhow, this coming up this spring is a book by Anthony Ray Hinton, who had been in Alabama, I think, and was one of the people who was released as a result of work by Bryan Stevenson and his Equal Justice Institute. So I'm a
It's
big Bryan Stevenson fan, so
yeah, we
I like
all.
any connection. Yeah, really? Yeah, how could you
He's
not be?
worked at the Bar Association. He's a hard get too, right? He's not the kind of speaker you can just sort of, hey, what are you doing this Friday?
Right, that's
Uh,
right.
when I was at the Bar Association, folks were interested in having him come and
Oh,
speak.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I saw him, years ago he was the keynote speaker at one of our American Association of Law Libraries annual meetings, probably 6 or 7 years ago. People still talk about it. It's like
yeah. Oh
every
yeah.
keynote speaker is held up to that standard. Well, it wasn't as good as Bryan Stevenson.
Yeah, yeah.
Still, literally, in the last year, someone's like, "Oh, remember when Bryan Stevenson gave the keynote?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's iconic. I mean, his
Yeah,
presentations are iconic. They're
yeah,
why
yeah.
anyone ever became a lawyer in the first place kind of speeches. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
this is the Great Paper Podcast. I'm Mike with Great Paper Legal, and I'm with Karen. Karen, welcome.
Hi,
Karen,
I'm here at Hennepin County Law Library. Glad to be here.
We like to answer the question. What was the most interesting legal research question of the week? Did you have one this week, Karen? Did you have an interesting one?
Well, boy, Mike, you and I can get into the weeds. And this
Yeah.
is, I don't know how helpful or interesting this is to anyone else, but we had an attorney uh, send us, a list of cases from one of the West Regional reporters and said, hey, I'm filing something in Arizona, and Arizona requires a parallel citation to Arizona Reporter. So can
Mhm.
you pull these up? He had the reporter citation, the regional reporter citation, but didn't have the Arizona state one. So we pulled the cases, and I was training in someone new, and she was saying, so which of these citations do I send? Because there are a number of citations, and how do I find the page number? And I was saying, oh, we'll just send the attorney the case. They can do the heavy lifting on star pagination. But I was surprised that there are still courts in this day and age where things are so easily available online that are requiring parallel citations. Do you know the status of parallel citation requirements anymore?
I don't. It's when I do that work on if I'm doing my clients are from all over the country.
Right.
I have more clients in other states than I do in Minnesota. So when I do that research on Westlaw, I make sure to switch up my settings on Westlaw to make sure that the copy by with reference is switched to that state in particular. So the pin site and everything would accommodate that Arizona rule. I don't have
Right.
to know where to remember it. I don't have to do any heavy lifting myself. I just copy and paste, and I get
Sure.
the parallel. So it works pretty well. But yeah, it's and there, of course, there are states like Illinois which have removed it because we live in an electronic world. Rather than page numbers, we do
Mhm.
paragraph numbers,
And
and
that
have
used to be that way in Wisconsin. Is that in Wisconsin as well?
I
Paragraph
don't
number?
know. Maybe we should jump into Westlaw and see what
Yeah, I think Wisconsin early on moved to that to try to get away
yeah,
from, we used to have big debates in law librarianship around vendor neutral citation.
vendor neutral. Yeah, I was struggling to remember we've talked
Yeah,
about this before, but I always struggle to
yeah,
remember.
because, the regional reporters were always, I think, the easiest citation to find. And it did seem like it was kind of giving an edge to one vendor, but I don't know. In this day and age where things are so electronic, I don't know. I
I
was
mean,
just
there are
saying,
there are a lot of California. We do a lot of work in California, which can be frustrating for page formatting because
yeah,
line numbering in a lot of states is still a thing. So your pleadings have to have line numbers, which is
oh
just
yeah,
crazy. And
yeah,
I know some of the MSBA resources like to use line numbering and like I think the residential real estate forms
oh yeah,
from the committee they use numbers. Let me just spend a second here and jumping into. I want to see what happens if I cut and paste a document into a citation into Word from a Wisconsin case. I'll share my screen here in just a second.
yeah.
Do you know of any other states that do vendor neutral?
No, I feel like years ago I saw a chart. Someone, of course, was keeping track of it
Yeah.
at some point, but haven't even thought about vendor neutral citations. in years, or
Yeah.
parallel citations. Remember with Supreme Court cases, you used to list out 3 citations
Yeah.
every time.
It's complicated. I mean, and those come out at various times depending on who the publisher is.
Exactly. If you're citing
Yeah.
something recent. Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, Wisconsin. Hmm. Doesn't it look like there are paragraph numbers there? Yeah. Oh, Mike, you're muted now. There you are.
There I am. Let's see. So yeah, you can see the citation format here, 2009
Yep.
WI App 7. So seventh case from 2009. And it's got the full treatment and the paragraph numbers. What I'm wondering is I'm going to copy a section of this.
Oh, sure. And see what the citation looks like.
I've got it set to standard currently. So this is essentially Blue Book, but
Oh, sure.
trademark issues there, I think. And Wisconsin is not its own, doesn't have its own. I wonder what happens if I paste this in. Standard copy with reference. What do we get?
Ta-dum, ta-dum.
So yeah, paragraph
Paragraph.
2. You also get the parallel citation. So the Wisconsin Reporter and the Northwest Reporter.
Yeah. Huh.
You get them all, but that yeah,
Get
I
it
don't know.
all, yeah.
It's like Altwood or might come out different. Well, but
Yeah. So that was, I don't know, that was just on my mind, this thought about parallel citations that I really, we don't Blue Book here much in the law library. We just give them to the patrons. But back in the day, that used to be a common thing. If you had something in print in your office, you would call a law library and say, hey, can you tell me what the parallel citation is for this?
oh, really?
Yeah, I think so on some of them, yeah.
You can still go, I think, to where did we? This is a tool I almost never use any longer, but there used to be a way to jump down to the citations, I thought. Maybe that link is gone. It's usually at the bottom of the document, I thought. There used to be a button just to jump down to all the parallel citations. I mean, here they are. And obviously with cut and paste. I wonder if that's no longer available on Westlaw Precision. It's funny. I mean, I become so used to using some of these tools. I think I've got Zotero open up here as well. Zotero is, during my master's, kind of a lifesaver because you submit the work on a periodic basis, and you had to choose your format, Chicago Manual of Style, for your citation purposes. And I just didn't remember all of the formatting options for the specific, and these tools are really, really good at doing that for you. So I never really truly learned Chicago Manual of Style, and I'm quickly forgetting any Blue Book because of these tools that are available, and these tools are really good at putting in the proper citation format.
Yeah, they've gotten much better than they used to be, I think. The other thing that came up this week, Mike, that just made me wonder about attorneys in like your situation, solo and small firm attorneys, is I was fooled by a phishing attempt here at work.
Oh
And
yeah.
it was a super, well, I think it was a super sophisticated one. It was an
Very,
email that
very.
came from someone I knew at Lee
Yes.
Mitchell. And the email address was correct. It had all the Mitchell branding. I'm not trying to throw Mitchell under the bus here. And now as I'm saying it, I'm like, wait a minute,
Your
maybe this
colleague.
isn't great.
Yeah.
But and it came and it said, exciting new project. Click here to learn more about this
Ooh.
RFP. And I
Wow.
was like,
Talk
yeah,
about teasing your audience, man. I mean, that's a
yeah.
good one.
And I was like, huh, well, that seems a little odd, but maybe, maybe somehow they're using an RFP to get adjuncts in or something, because I
Yeah.
knew this person knows me. Why would she be sending this? So I clicked on it and it opened a screen and it said like, put in this code 12345, which also sounded like something someone would
Yeah.
do. So I got that far, I entered that in, and then it said you have to log in, use your Microsoft login. And I thought, well,
Ooh.
this is not right. So I backed out of it and I thought, well, I wonder if she even works at Mitchell Hamlin anymore. So I went to the Mitchell Hamlin website. Sure enough, she works there. And so I forwarded the email to her and I thought I typed in her email address. Maybe I replied, but I said, "Hey, how you doing? What is this about? Maybe you meant to send this to someone else." And I got a reply that said something to the effect of, "No, it's for you. I just think your company would be really interested in this RFP." And I thought, she would not call where I work my company.
Yeah.
So so I forwarded it to someone else I know at Mitchell and said, uh, like, is she sending out RFPs? What is going on? And the response was, well, there are some interesting projects going on here. So it
Oh
might
my
be legit.
gosh.
And I was like, And she said, "Well, do you want me to call her?" And I said, yeah. And so my colleague over there then wrote back and said, you know what? The phone number in the signature block on this email is off by one digit. So I think it is spam. And I thought, huh, how would you how would you find that? In the meantime, while this was going on, I was thinking, no, this is really not correct. So I reported it to, county IT security team. They have a
Yeah. Yeah.
robust presence and they like disabled my account and
Yeah.
they classified it as a threat in bold with red letters.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, okay, so I was fooled by it partway. I thought, well, I never gave my actual credentials, but uh, I clicked on something far enough for, I
For them
suppose,
to, yeah.
the
You don't
threat
know
to
what
start
else.
to get I don't know, creep in. But what do you do? I just think it would be so hard to be a solo operator and try to defend against stuff like this. Like, what's your big
Yeah.
secret? Like,
Yeah, when you don't have an IT department, I mean, there are all kinds of managed services people out there.
yeah.
I'd love a good referral. I just uh we talk I'm going to talk about the tech show in a minute, and I met some folks who do web development. It was at the
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, finally. I mean, I really enjoyed my conversation with them. I did a follow-up meeting. I like them, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I've got a web developer I can send people to. And
Oh, great.
the same thing with like security, like IT managed services, those folks can handle this kind of thing. And for the that's another sort of missing tool in my toolbox is who might I refer people to for that kind of thing. I've got the folks that I've worked with before at like the MSBA but
Sure.
those are bigger, more expensive folks, and so I'm not sure who's the good fit for so small law
Yeah.
firms still, but
Yep.
um, yeah, it's sort of hard to find those people. Yeah, they say. I mean, that's a good one. That's a great story. The but what I think what they say, right? If you're not expecting the email, don't
Right.
even open that, right? Yeah, which is odd to me to say, because how you're not expecting, that's how we communicate, right?
Well, exactly. I was gonna like say that in my defense. Like
Yeah,
sometimes you do hear from someone you haven't heard from in
yeah,
a while. They do have an interesting opportunity or idea, and that's like how we work.
right. And if you call me, I was like, that is so gross. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like, that's what my dad, he'll call and leave a voice message, and I'll call him right back, and he's, oh, did you get my
yeah,
message? I'm sure you left me one.
yeah,
I didn't listen
right.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What did you need? Yeah.
yeah. What do you want? What do you want to? What's up? Yeah, and I have a voice messaging, of course, but that's not how we communicate these days. So it's tough. It's tough to
Right. Right.
get some of
Yeah,
those,
I
and they
know.
are getting more sophisticated.
I,
Do you know what happened on the Mitchell side of things? Did they? I mean, that's a hack, right? She's been her accounts.
right. Right. Exactly. And so, when my colleague said, "Well, do you think I should call her?" I said, "Well, probably. She probably wants to know."
Yeah.
And and then just minutes later, uh, my friend over there sent me an email and said, "Oh, look at what we just got from our IT department." And it was like, "Don't click on anything that came from this."
Yeah.
This person at Mitchell, she was hacked. Just delete it.
Did they discover it on their own, or was it as a result of what you alerted them
I'm
to?
not sure. I think they discovered it on their own. Probably someone else like me was
Got a
was
similar.
calling and saying, "Problem, problem, problem, danger." So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Those are, uh,
but it makes me think. Of course, I think that my impression is the county gets hit quite a lot by hackers, especially as election time comes closer. So there's this primary election coming up, and they really, um, I don't know, put up the walls and try to guard against these attacks. But I think the county gets hit a lot. I don't know. Does it matter who you are, or is just everyone getting hit all the time?
I think everyone's getting hit all the time.
Yeah,
I think
I think that's probably
they
right
often
because
talk about
companies,
the legal
yeah,
community. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, because they often talk about the legal community as low hanging fruit because of lax security measures and
mhm.
just easier targets. Um, but and more likely to pay, and it's more fruitful. I don't know. What's
Does
the
that
tar
come up in the professional responsibility rules? Like the lawyers have this obligation to keep their information private, and I suppose I don't know, it's somehow encompassed in in that. I was thinking it's such a shame, that solo and small attorneys then have to spend valuable like overhead dollars protecting against this. But I suppose, they spend less on photocopiers now. And,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
always a trade-off with what your overhead is,
I
right?
mean, it's the cost of doing any business, and if you're in
Yeah.
business, you're gonna, yeah, it is, and it's not always, using a client portal, and using complex passwords, man. There are, the 5 things to do in cybersecurity that we've all been talking about for the last 10 years that are
Right.
still applicable, and
Right.
as long as you're following those, it's funny. We always talk about the duty of tech competence. It's not really a duty because I mean, if it's AI, you may not realize it's a hallucinated case, but you still have a duty to read the cases that you're submitting.
Right. Right. And
You
to
know,
confirm the citations and yeah.
yeah, and the same thing with cybersecurity. You're not just sending confidential messages through email. Um,
Mhm.
you have a duty of confidentiality, regardless. And I guess that is, there are elements of tech competence in all of it, but I don't know. I sort of feel like that the the background, the basics have been described for so long. Um, it's good to do a refresher. I mean, I know the Bar Association and plenty of CLEs that are,
Yeah.
updating folks on some of the basics. So Todd Scott's CLEs are always good from MLM, which is where you're going to get dinged, right?
Oh, sure. They want you to
Yes,
protect your
yeah.
data. Yeah.
So
Yeah. I know, and I know law librarians and many of us who do in-house CLEs will often get a legal forensics, person like John Carney or Mark Lanterman who'll come in and sort of scare everybody. And
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you've got technical
does-
solutions, you've got your training solutions. It's
right.
a the social engineering piece is a tricky one. I've been fooled on that too, and it's because it's come from a familiar source. There's one where it was a colleague of mine at the Bar Association forwarded me a message, "Hey, can you take care of this right away?" And it came
Mhm.
from that person. I had assumed that person had vetted the message, right? And,
Oh, right.
and
Of
I,
course. Yeah.
right, because why? And so I clicked on it. I'm like, "Oh shit!" That was like,
Hmm.
why would I do that, right? You can't just assume because it's been forwarded
Right.
by a colleague that they've done the proper vetting on it as well. So I got dinged that way. I was like, "Oh yeah, of course not," right? That's a there's a message here, and so we reported that to our research. We used Element. I don't know if they're still using local
Oh, yeah.
there, but
Yeah. I don't know. I was feeling kind of sheepish about being fooled, but they get more and more sophisticated. One of my
they do, yeah.
my colleague over at Ramsey County Law Library sent a warning just a month ago. I should have paid more attention. She had gotten a request from an attorney, and it went to the law library, and it had one of those generic messages, right, that the hackers use. Can you take care of this or something?
Yeah,
And something made Shannon suspicious, so she called the attorney and said, "I just want to make sure you sent this." And she hadn't.
yeah.
It's definitely
Perfect example of what you're
yeah.
supposed to do, right? You weren't
Well,
expecting,
exactly. But what
yeah,
is our job in a law library? To receive emails from lawyers saying,
yeah,
"Can you
yes,
help with this?" This is exactly
yeah.
what we do. It was just, she was like, "This attorney doesn't write, there's no greeting." And so anyhow,
A lot of stuff gets through spam filters as well. I
sure.
mean, like your situation, for example, I've been getting a
Yep.
lot of like DocuSign requests
Oh,
recently,
yeah.
and just even reading it carefully, I'm like, is this for me? I mean, and I have a question. It's not like so
Right.
obvious because the spelling is wrong, or it's
Right.
poorly formatted, or none of that. It's looks like this is for me. This looks like it's
Right.
for me, from
Right.
somebody I might know.
Right.
And I'm getting all kinds of stuff like that all the time, but
Yeah.
I'm not expecting it. I'm.
Yeah. And the fake invoices, this invoice is overdue.
Yeah,
And then you're supposed to click on it and open it. You're like, "Tell me more," in the body of the email before I click on an
yeah,
attachment.
yeah, yeah. Or
But
better
yeah,
yet, yeah.
so those are my
Those
exciting
are
observations and questions. But you've been at the tech show, Mike. I feel like you have a lot of interesting things to tell us about.
I did go to the tech show. Yeah, it was great. I mean, a little worried about investing the time. It's hard. I do wish some of these things were more remote.
Yeah,
But there is great value in sort of bumping into people,
right.
and I did. I felt I made some connections there, like with the folks at the Seville. I picked up. I call them Seville because that's the way it looks like it's spelled to me, but I think they pronounce it civil. Just drop their
Oh,
business card. But they're from my hometown too, so I'm a little bit biased. In
oh, yeah.
Eastern Wisconsin, they're from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I'm like, what? That's
Uh-huh.
I,
It's good to
but
recognize your bias. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like I had a discussion with them, young company. They don't have a ton of clients, but they serve. They build lawyer websites, which is just somebody I've been looking for. And I've had lots of conversations with other companies
Right.
who are doing this, and it's never really felt like a really good connection. So I was excited to connect with them and talk with them at a follow-up conversation with them, the folks at Net Documents, I reconnected with. So it felt like, those sort of casual conversations that you have bumping into folks was super valuable, and so I did feel like I got a lot out of it. I do wish with so many of these conferences, Legal Week and the LSC conference that we're looking at the other day, there's just so many of them. There should be a low cost remote option for a lot of, I think, and we should broaden the audience for something contextual for the reasons that you're talking about, these security issues, for example, I think are great refreshers, and the folks who can afford the Sola Smalls who are going to go to the tech show don't need that cybersecurity refresher,
Right.
So I think there's sort of value in making those a little bit more. So that's kind of my only thought. But it was a good.
And the tech show is in Chicago, right?
Yeah. Easy flight from Minneapolis, actually. So we did a quick turnaround. Dropped in on Thursday, came back on Friday night. So I didn't get to attend the whole thing, but it was really nice. It was really nice. There was more AI than you could possibly stand, I think. But
are we going to be? They sent out for librarians like 10 hot topics to choose from. They're going to add. They do this always, later in the year. They decide to add 2 or 3 kind of current hot topics to the program for the annual meeting in July. And I think all 10 of them were related to AI. And I thought, enough. I don't want to go to about AI. All the topics last year were on AI, but
there was a good program. There was a session on Copilot, the Microsoft product, which was super interesting and helpful, and that's what the product does.
Right.
Basic stuff like that, which was pretty helpful. It's like, I understand how that works and why it's
and I shouldn't be so dismissive of AI. It continues to develop, and we have to be on top of it. But sometimes you just feel a little bit overloaded with thinking about the same thing all the time. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, it was about a year ago, we were all concerned about the metaverse. That was remember that?
Yeah.
Remember Facebook rebranding as Meta, and who owns these virtual workspaces we're about to enter it? Nobody's talking about that anymore.
No, it comes and it goes. Yeah.
Comes and goes. Yeah. It's like, and so now it's all, I think it's true. There's a lot of talk. Nikki Black has been reciting this meme, I guess, about, in the legal world, you had PCs, the internet, and now AI. I think that's probably accurate. There's the 3 major guideposts in things that have impacted the legal world, and I'm sure that's true.
Yep.
But some of the best sessions I went to had nothing to do with even tech.
Really?
Yeah, it was fun. Somebody did a session on amending Rule 5.5 for multi-jurisdictional practices, and
and
it was completely without tech. There were good data points, and they discussed the data and how to access data about this particular issue, which was helpful. But that was super interesting, and I think there were 10 people in the room, though, whereas the Copilot presentation was people were sitting on the floor. So.
Yep, that's how it goes, though. Yeah.
Favorite. I had a client. My other issue was this doing an office action response this week to trademark. Are you familiar with this tool? Have you seen TMTKO?
I am not familiar with this.
I'm embarrassed to say I haven't done an office action in a little while. We mostly do trademark clearance, and so I use Westlaw, Clarivate. They use some of the Thompson products among other things. I was not even aware of this tool. My client was giving me a walkthrough. She said, "This is so cool." It's a little expensive, at least for me. but I like these sort of a la carte options, right? If you just need this for a
Oh,
day,
a day
uh,
pass.
day
Interesting. Yeah.
pass for $84, totally, that
Mhm.
totally worth it. But what's cool about it is you can search office actions
Hmm.
for so if because I'm working on a response to an office action, I need to sort of come up with a fact specific search for the type of denial that we got in our
Right.
office action, and you can do that with this tool. It's so cool. It's basic,
Wow.
super basic Boolean and check boxes, so
Right.
likelihood of fusion, section 2D, and then I can just add on to the content something like um, I think the example has a search for recipe in it. Maybe we can use that one or something like that. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but spelled wrong. Nice.
Recipe.
uh, but so you can jump right in and find successful responses to replies to office actions. Very, very helpful. And you're searching right into the record and
Yeah.
the documents, and there's the response to the office action, and I can
Holy
see whether or not.
moly. Yeah.
Yes, it's so cool. She was showing me. I'm like, I didn't know about this. This is so cool. She's an experienced trademark attorney, and
Well, how did people do this before a tool like this? Did they? Or you were just out on your own writing a response?
yeah, I mean, the office action, you do it like the way I was doing it, I suppose. The office action is a memo, it's a legal memo that says, here are the DuPont factors, here's how we apply the DuPont factors.
Right.
Likelihood of confusion is, the commercial impression, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so you're looking for what I would do is like, oh yeah, here's the main point, and under our circumstances, I bet there's some case law which is negatively cites that particular sort based on our particular facts. So we jump into Westlaw and
Sure.
the yellow flag, and start doing some keyword searches off of that. And that can be successful, but
Sure.
these you can do that also in TTAB cases and
Oh, sure. Sure. Yep.
various places. But I was just not familiar with this tool, and it's
Right.
very. The help menu I've had this great. So it sort of walks through the Boolean searching, but it's also got this little business development piece
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So it shows you how to find applicants who are unrepresented, right?
Oh,
Turning representation no. And by using this mailroom date from the office action criteria,
uh-huh.
you can find folks who might be in need of your services
Oh,
to
I
reply to
see.
the office action. So to me, this is
Wow.
worth a subscription if you're in this practice area. And
Sure.
I don't know why. I mean, it's true. I haven't done an office action in a little while. I'm not sure how old this resource is, but this is. She was showing this to me the other day. I'm like, this is amazing. I love
Is
this.
that the
So
kind of thing then you might subscribe to on a daily basis? On a like a day pass because you don't get a lot of these questions, or does it seem helpful enough to?
it depends. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
for now, most of the work I do is clearance related,
Mhm.
but it's very, very different, very, very different process, right? For a clearance project, oftentimes you get a mark that is, not super strong.
Yeah.
From a client. A client will say, well, and you have an opportunity then to talk with the client about whether or not it's worth the risk of registering that mark. You're not
Right.
making these arguments about why it is registerable.
Hmm.
You're making an argument to the client about what might make the mark more strong and less
Right.
likely to receive an office action. Um,
Right.
so you talk about it being, more arbitrary or less descriptive and things like that. You can talk about the strength of a mark before they start investing all of their time and money,
Right.
not only on registration, but using that mark. Sometimes it's just, you have to say, well, it looks like there's a lot of similar marks out there and there's some risk. We're going to do it anyway, and we'll reply to the office action. But oftentimes you're just in the work of saying, hey, let's strengthen the mark. Are you in a place in the right now where you can't do a little something in your marketing? Just,
Right.
where are you in your business process right now?
Yeah.
That's something we can work on before we do the registration. At any rate, your risk of infringing also, right? If it's
well, exactly.
similar mark. So you can have the business discussion with them before investing in the registration. When an office action happens, though, you're kind of
like you're all in then. Yeah.
You're not all in, but you're not only have you claimed use, so you've been using it for a little while, but the office is telling you it's not something you might be able to register.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So you're in a situation where you need to make your best legal argument, not just business related, but you're making a legal argument instead.
Mhm.
So it's a different process. But I was excited to see this tool.
Yeah. TMTKO.
TMTKO.
Yeah, these specialty products, are quite impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very simple to use, very simple to search, and they've got all kinds of other tools I haven't fully explored yet as well. But yeah, I hope to convince my partner that this is something worth our regular subscription.
Yeah. Yep.
But
well, that's great.
Super fun. What else?
What do you have coming up this next week?
This next week, got a watch party for my family's big fans of Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's about the geekiest thing I can probably express. But ever since my kids were little, they're now adult practicing professionals.
Uh-huh.
But we have a watch party coming up this weekend, and kind of a weird thing that our
that'll be great. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that. On the professional side, I'm going to be messing around with this tool, so that's cool, exploring this to see what that's about. What about you? What do you have coming up this week?
Well, I am going to co-author, although the other author has the idea for this article and has a whole outline, and I'm going to provide a county law library access to justice sort of point of view. But he's talking about accessing state level trial court records and the challenge of doing that. He's a law firm librarian, and he does training for his attorneys and paralegals on this, about what to be careful of, when you're searching state level trial court records. You don't always know what's covered or how far back it goes. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how we see those court records being used by the public and non-attorneys and so forth. So I haven't even really started on my research or part of that. This is not an academic article. It's being written for kind of the magazine of the Law Library Association. So it'll be fun. One of those articles that basically is like, why is everything so hard?
Yes. Well, that's a good one. That's I'm all about that. I think there's great value in being able to affordably, for our solo and small firm practitioners, getting good sample work products, super, super important. Oftentimes you can get that from a colleague, but hardly ever, you want to be able to do research like this, right? Exactly. Where you can run that specific fact pattern. Because there's plenty of stuff out there, right? There's a lot of documents.
Right. And even though, you've been trained in law school how to create something out of whole cloth, in practice, you don't want to spend the time doing that. You want an example that's decent, and then you change it and
Yeah.
re-verify and do all those things we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
But you don't want to start from zero all the time. And finding a good pleading document can be so helpful.
It really, really can. You can see whether or not it's been a successful motion,
Right.
or whether so you can get a lot of good information from those, and
Right.
they should be. I just think there's a huge investment in gathering this, right? I mean, I don't have these as part of my subscription plan. I use other resources to grab um, pleadings from.
Yeah.
I typically we've discussed before. I run a search here and then jump over to MnCRO and then pull it that
Right.
way, which works
Right.
pretty well. Or I'll reach out to the law library, or
Yep.
in other jurisdictions, the law librarians are also pretty helpful. It's funny, I got an email the other day that said, "Hey, I'm not in your jurisdiction. I wonder if you might be able to help me pull a pleading. Like, we'll do it this one time."
Right.
So,
Yeah.
we'll do it
Yeah.
this one.
Don't get in the habit.
Yeah, that's right. Like, I'm not, I'm 1,000 miles away from you. Is there any chance you can,
Yeah.
I can't come into your library and do a thing? Yeah, we'll do it.
I had a similar experience. Someone was asking for some kind of briefing. Was it for the California State Supreme Court? And their website said briefing is available, but only after it's been scheduled for oral argument. So it hadn't yet been scheduled, but the briefing was somewhere. And so I contacted a colleague in Northern California, and I said, well, there's got to be a way to find it if it exists. But they just haven't calendared the case yet. How do you guys do it in California? And 20 minutes later, she sends it to me, the thing our patron was looking for. And I replied and said, how did you do it? And she said, I didn't know how to do it. I called the librarian at the Supreme Court. Got it. And I was like,
also research, right? I know somebody who knows somebody is
That's
also
right.
research, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Not the kind of
just
research
unlike
a
you.
librarian loves, I guess, though.
Yeah, right.
How do you
Right.
do it?
I could have called directly, I guess, but I thought there'd be some secret sauce there, and apparently there wasn't.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just looking around. It's just,
Yep.
yeah.
Call someone you know. Yeah.
Yeah. To get it done.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
teach that in law library school.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so I'll dive into some of that research, and maybe next week you all can help me with things I'm having trouble with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I totally 100% support that effort. And it's a good access to justice issue. I understand there's a huge cost in getting this information. So many jurisdictions just aren't doing business electronically even. And these are all, these documents are, Westlaw editors, boots on the ground, finding it's hugely cost intensive to gather this kind of material. So I get it.
And one of the things this co-author has done is gone through the states and just done an initial assessment. Do they have these records available electronically? And who does it? Like, is it a Tyler Technologies court, or is it a homegrown system? And that's really interesting to know as well, because some of that searching capability then might transfer if they're using the same system. So anyhow, I haven't studied that Excel spreadsheet yet.
I want that spreadsheet so badly. I mean, I can't tell you. I really do. I mean, I spend a lot of time, I think, well, maybe I just don't see it, right? Because court websites aren't always beautiful or easy to find things in. Many of them are. But I fear, because I'm not from the area, that I'm missing the resource I should be looking for.
Exactly.
So that is a value for me. Specifically, maybe other folks more generally, is super valuable resource. I'd be happy to promote that.
You're a great audience, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna,
No one can
Yeah.
geek out like you.
yeah, I suppose. Uh, I'd be happy to help you guys maintain that
Oh,
data,
okay.
that record as
Sure.
well. You know,
Yeah.
Armin and I can put together a little project on that just to, make sure that we're checking in regularly and
Yeah.
updating contacts. And so, yeah, just let us know how we can help. But we'd be happy
Oh,
to.
will
I
do,
mean,
Mike.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's something that we would use, and
Right.
we do that every week at least, looking for filings from jurisdictions that we're not in, right? Looking for sample doc.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Absolutely,
Well, now you've
I'm
inspired me
excited
to
for
hit
you,
it, hit it hard next week, and we'll
yeah.
talk about it Friday. I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right,
Karen, thanks
great.
again. Have a great week. Yeah, have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
you too. Yep. Enjoy your watch party.